I think there's going to be some disappointment coming for the Z Fold 5. And what might that be, you ask? Well, I've got the Z Fold 4 here, and there's two things that are really kind of disappointing to hear. So, from these, I think, well respected information from a guy named Ice Universe, he's like one of the first and foremost when it comes to leaks regarding Samsung phones. He covers Samsung stuff all the time. Two things that have come out are that one, the cameras on the Z Fold 5 are reportedly going to be the exact same as in the Z Fold 4, which I think is really a big disappointment because the phone costs $17.99 for the Fold 4. I'm not expecting them to give us a price drop on the Z Fold 5. I think they're probably going to make the same kind of argument and say, oh, well, we didn't raise the price, so therefore you get a price savings because, everything's more expensive. So, first thing that's looking disappointing if this happens is the same cameras, which I've been saying we need to get better cameras. If you're going to charge almost $2,000 for a phone, or in fact have charged $2,000 for this phone before, you should have the best and the brightest. And they should find a way to put it in there. And then secondly, it looks like we're going to get the exact same display on the front. I think even on the inside. Like, it doesn't look like there's going to be any changes to the screen. I know for sure when I was reading the front screen, and if they still don't give us the S Pen support on the front, that's going to be really crappy. Like, that's just, I think at this point, a slap in the face. Like, if they really don't do anything substantial, and also the other thing is it looks like they're not really making any substantial changes to the Flip 5 as well. And if that holds up, and if they don't make any changes to the front, especially when it comes to the screen and things like that, yeah, I think that really shows how much Samsung actually values people and the products that they're trying to sell to them, because they're really slow playing this. And when we look at what we're possibly getting with the Pixel Fold, and that basically being the only other true size foldable that we get here in the US, I think that right there tells you exactly what you need to know about Samsung's approach to doing business with the Fold and the Flip. I mean, you can go look at the Oppo Find N2 Flip, and it's got some neat things going for it, but I think most people will largely argue that the software and most of the experience on the Flip 4 is better. And you can look at the Motorola, but then the Motorola 2022 phone didn't even end up in the US, so that was really what I was hoping for. I was hoping we were going to get the Motorola phone, the new Razer phone was going to come to the US 2022 model, and it would have the bigger screen and the newer cameras and the bigger form factor. It looked really good. And I really wanted one. I just never got around to buying one just because of what band support and some other issues. And I hoped that eventually it was going to come to the US. But I think that ship has gone by and sailed. So if we end up in this situation with the Fold 5, and if we're going to get the same screens and we're going to get the same cameras, and they're just going to throw us a Snapdragon 8 Generation 2, and that's the other thing that I read. It looks like, based off the rumors now, we're going to get the Snapdragon 8 Generation 2. And what we should be getting in the fall, just like we got with the Fold 4, is a Snapdragon 8 Plus. So we got the 8 Plus Generation 1 for the Fold 4, which was sorely needed from the 8 Generation 1 at the beginning of the year because of a lot of the battery issues and the heat, the standby time, and stuff like that. That's one of the biggest complaints I have. The Snapdragon 8 Plus Generation 1 is much better for like battery and power management, but the standby time is still not good. And if you try and use the camera, video, stuff like that, it eats up the battery pretty quickly. So my thought is that should be getting the 8 Plus Generation 2 this fall. I wonder if they're even going to make one. And we've had the Plus series for quite a while now, but I know Samsung and also Qualcomm, other manufacturers, are looking for ways to save money. So there's been so much praise and so much positive stuff that's gone into the Snapdragon 8 Generation 2. I've got it in my OnePlus 11. I've got it in my S23. I've got it in my S23 Ultra. It's the best Snapdragon chip I think I've probably ever used. It's really, really good. So not saying that if we get the Snapdragon 8 Generation 2 and the Fold 5 is not going to be amazing. I've already made a video before saying that there's so much promise and I'm actually really excited. I don't care if we don't get a Plus, but if we're going to get the beginning of the year chipset, like the end of last year chipset, the 8 Generation 2, I would hope that would give us a little bit of a savings in the phone. And I really think they need to. I think they need to drop the price from $17.99 down to $15.99. Even if they got it to $16.99, I think that would make most people happy just to see that we're trending in a downward direction. One of the main tenets of technology, especially in the US, is as you build them, as you continue to make them, and as technology gets newer and newer, it's supposed to get cheaper and cheaper. So understandably, the first fold comes out is $2,000. You know, the second one comes out is $2,000, and then we get to the third one and the fourth one. We drop to $17.99, $17.99. So we're on the fifth generation now. And you're telling me in the fifth generation, especially when you're going to use last year's cameras, last year's screen, last year's all this stuff, and throw like a Snapdragon 8 Generation 2 in there, we should be looking at some price cutting. We should be looking at some savings. Because if you look at all that and say $17.99, you go, yeah, maybe I won't go ahead and buy that, right? I'll hold on to the Fold 4 or I'll hold on to the Fold 3. And if there's no substantial change, I'll probably still say stick with the Fold 3. So I really hope that they bring us the touch stuff on the front screen with the S Pen, because right now it doesn't work. You can use the S Pen on the front screen all you want. It does nothing. Only works on the inside. So I really maintain they need to add that to the front. And then also, I'm not a big fan of this, but I think they should do it because the phone does support the S Pen, right? So you can get the S Pen case, and I've got the Samsung one. Utterly love this case. I've had it on here since day one, got the S Pen case, all that great stuff. I like the big S Pen, especially when you're talking about having like a really big screen like this. It makes so much sense. It's like having a big pencil as opposed to the much, much smaller one. But a lot of complaints are, you see what happens when you put it on the outside? You have to get this like bolt-on case that adds more heft and more bulk, and it makes it harder to lay it down flat, use stands and things like that. So it makes it a more awkward experience, especially whenever you're talking about a really expensive phone. Should be a little bit more streamlined and some more finesse there, right? So I think they need to add the internal S Pen, and also just so you have it. If you're paying that much money for the phone, it darn well better have the S Pen in it, just like the S23 Ultra. It would be really odd if they sold the S23 Ultra, they're like, oh, by the way, you have to buy the stylus separate to be able to use it. That's very much the argument they make here. So I think they could probably find enough room in the big housing and chassis for that device to be able to put a regular S Pen inside of it, right? And yeah, I think they need to do that. Even though I like the larger S Pen, even though I might not necessarily use that one unless I need to, if I'm in a pinch or a bind or whatever, I think it should be there. So, and those were a lot of the rumors and things people were talking about going into the Fold 4. We're like, yay, we're going to get the digitizer. We'll be able to use the S Pen on the front. And it's so great. S Pen, yay. And then a lot of rumors about having an internal S Pen silo on the phone. So if we're not getting the internal S Pen, if we're not getting S Pen support on the front, if we're keeping the same size, the exact same screen, if we're keeping the same cameras, that just really doesn't bode well for the excitement for the Fold 5 this fall. And I really hope that we're wrong on this. But I do got to say, this guy, Ice Universe, I follow him, and he's very reputable. Like, he says something about the Samsung phones, and people out in the tech community take that as gospel. They make videos. I'm making a video about it because I am a little worried that it's actually going to happen and pan out this way. And I really hope it doesn't, because I had so much excitement looking towards the Fold 5, especially when you look at it from the Snapdragon 8 Generation 2 perspective. I think it's going to do so much for the phone, especially power, performance, battery, longevity, really giving you that all-day battery experience. It's kind of still lacking here, even though it is improved over the Fold 3. So that's all I got in this video. What do you think? If this comes to fruition and we end up with basically the same exact phone again, is that something that you think is acceptable, or you think that that's really just like really insulting at this point in time? Sound off in the comments. We'll talk about it. And if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out, which is every single day, by the way, sometimes twice a day, especially this last week. And as always, thanks for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. It means a lot. Thanks for the support, and I'll see you guys next time.